this guy particularly, former player, former teammate, and I think he was built for this position. When he actually got the job, I was very pleased and happy, and I thought he would do wonderfully, and that would be Mr. Stephen Vogt.
Yeah, yeah, the kiddos are pretty pumped, that's for sure.
The 2024 National League Manager of the Year. You've utilized the word tough to describe him on several occasions, and he is as tough as he looks. We go way back. Mr. Pat Murphy, congratulations, brother.
Thanks.
There we go. Welcome, everybody. It's MLB Tonight, presented by Mattress Firm. Brian Kenny and Sean Casey here. It's awards week. The manager's going tonight. We'll talk Hall of Fame ballot case. That's going to be interesting. We'll talk down ballot guys who are making their debut on the Hall of Fame ballot. Also, the Mets made a trade today, and I'm going to do a little digging in on the National League Cy Young Award, which will be announced tomorrow. That's a little closer, I think, most people think.
Yes.
So that'll be there. But normally, you know, it's like Manager of the Year isn't the most drama, the most suspense. This year, it feels different. This year, there are real debates and arguments, I think, to be had.
Real debates, no doubt about it. I think all the candidates, you could have said, you know, when you go out to the AL and the NL with Matty Q and A.J. Hinch and Stephen Vogt, and then you go to the National League, too, with all the guys there. I mean, I think there were some real candidates, and I knew it was going to be close.
It should have been close anyway. Now, sometimes the voting can be kind of a yes-no situation. We'll show you the votes here. First, though, again, Stephen Vogt is first. 2 first-year managers win Manager of the Year. Stephen Vogt for the Guardians. Played in 2022, only a year removed from the playing field. 92 games and a division title. He's Manager of the Year.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel right now. First, I just have to thank the Dolan family, Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, Matt Foreman, the Cleveland organization, the entire front office, but my coaching staff, Craig Albernez, Carl Willis, Sandy Alomar Jr., Kai Correa. I can't name them all, but I wouldn't be here without those people, and most importantly, the players. The players did this. It has very little, as you know, Buck. If the players don't do what they're capable of, this wouldn't be possible.
True, and yet the manager has a big say. Now, here's the voting, and we'll get into this. Like,
no pun intended.
Yeah, yes, right. It can be misleading because it's kind of a yes or no. Maybe everybody thought it was close. But, again, 27 of the 30 voters going with Stephen Vogt, then Matt Quatraro of Kansas City, A.J. Hinch, and then Joe Espada of Houston. But let's talk Stephen Vogt first, at least, Case. And that vote, he came in not just replacing Terry Francona, but also taking over a team that did not make the playoffs the year before. Right. They were a disappointment only last year. Very few people expected that. And, again, he was only off the field for 1 year before he took this
BK, I'd love to hire right away because when you talk about Terry Francona and the man that he is in that clubhouse, Stephen Vogt was a guy I said, oh, what a transition you make with a guy like Stephen Vogt, really a leader of men, a guy that was a leader in the clubhouses that he played for as a player. But I tell you what, I think he did an incredible job, BK. I think being a former catcher and seeing the game the way he saw it behind the dish, the way he did a great job with that bullpen, having one of the best bullpens in the game, and just the way he was able to navigate some injuries early in that rotation, I think Stephen Vogt did an incredible job. And you talk about 92 wins, that's pretty big.
Look, no doubt. Look, this is subjective. What surprises me is I don't think I've ever seen a more impressive job as far as roster utilization and then leading directly to results. A better job than A.J. Hinch did with the Tigers. The Tigers case this year. Out of nowhere, when I think, was it 33-11 to finish up the year, they end up like they pinch hit more than anybody else. They've got openers who close the next very game. Most of the year, he had 2 or 3 starters. And down the stretch, when they ended up making the postseason run, they only had 2 starters, and it was a full bullpen attack. Look at the most innings pitched this year by really 40 innings more by the Tigers. They made the playoffs, so I'm a little mystified there. I know Stephen Vogt won the division, but I would say as far as, look, the last few weeks, Case, we were looking at the Tigers going, this is, as he said, pitching chaos, and they were winning and they made the playoffs.
It was, BK, I couldn't agree with you more. A.J. Hinch did an incredible job. You talk about literally was winning with mixing and matching that bullpen. And we talked about earlier, too, and also pinch hitting guys, having the right matchups at all times. A.J. Hinch, they had a 2.2% chance or a 2% chance to make the playoffs, I believe, on August 11th, and they ended up making it. It was incredible.
And look, Matt Quatraro, the year before, the Royals lost 106 games. You can make an argument you want for anybody. Right. I just thought Hinch would be closer, and I thought Hinch might actually win. I thought it was one of the more impressive managing jobs I've ever seen done, last 10, 15 years at the very least. All right, moving on. National League. This was a wire-to-wire division champ. Pat Murphy there. Again, first-year manager. He's been a bench coach before. He's been a manager before at different places. But he takes over, changed the culture there. He led to a real intensity with Milwaukee. They win 93 games. Pat Murphy wins Manager of the Year.
Really is an organizational thing, from the ownership to the front office to the coaching staff. They all made me look good, but nobody more than the players. They stepped up. They're the right guys. Again, I didn't plan on this. It wasn't my path. But then when I got with Counts, and I was supposed to be mentoring him, but he did a great job mentoring me, and I learned so much about the big league game. And then when this all happened, I was just really grateful. I don't know that I was ready. I don't know that I ever feel like I can do it, but just being grateful, go to work every day and show up and try to impact somebody.
Pat Murphy did a marvelous job, and he mentioned Craig Counsell. He took over from Craig Counsell. He's bench coach, I believe, 8 years there before he took over, and he took over seamlessly. He also gets 27 of the 30 first-place votes. Again, that's lopsided, and maybe every voter thought it was close, but for Mike Shildt to get one, I'm a little mystified there. I don't get it. Everybody listed their case, did an outstanding job. No issue at all with Pat Murphy winning, in that we didn't expect an awful lot, and they missed Corbin Burns. They didn't have Devin Williams at the start of the year, and yet basically wire to wire, the Brewers were, as they usually are, quietly excellent.
Yeah, you want to talk about a guy that really leads from the front. That's Pat Murphy. That's when you think, he has a perfect mix of being able to joke around with the players, but yet he's the boss. I think that's a big thing with Pat Murphy, knowing Murph really well and the way he leads. But you're right, BK, when you talk about at the beginning of the season, they trade their ace in Corbin Burns. Devin Williams lost for most of the season. Yelich goes down at a prime time when they really needed him. Woodruff misses the whole year. Yeah. So, his back was against the wall to start with Counsell being gone, and he steps up, 93 wins. They really played well, making it into the postseason. But you're right, Mike Shildt did an incredible job. And Carlos Mendoza, they were one of the best teams, all the way from since the beginning of May. Carlos Mendoza did an incredible job for the Mets. So you're right. Everyone was so deserving.
You could make an argument for any of the three. With Murphy, I will say this. There was an intensity. Remember, they were edgy. And they played with a lot of spunk. They had a few dust-ups with other teams. So as far as a team identity, I think, his personality directly instilled that.
There's no doubt. And that's Murph. If you know Murph, if you go back to his early days at Arizona State, they're like, man, this guy's a drill sergeant. I think he's mellowed over the years. But there's always that in there with Murph. And I think that's the way they played. If you watch the Brewers play, they played with Pat Murphy's personality. There's no doubt about it.
That said, the San Diego Padres, a full year ago, were one of the malaise teams, right? Underperforming, had all these stars. It wasn't happening. It wasn't working. From the opening weekend in Korea case, Mike Shildt had these guys singing a different tune. You heard Tatis and Machado talking about accountability and playing for one base at a time. And they did it all year. They had an outstanding season. And even in the playoffs, they had an outstanding run. So I'm torn, but as far as making a huge change for a team that drastically underperformed. We're losing all those one-run games, remember? And then that wasn't just a fluke, and all the extra inning games. This year, they were the complete opposite.
It was such a great shot, a great sign. You go back to his days with the Cardinals. They were really good when he was there. Then he gets let go or for whatever reason. But I thought he was the right guy because he's a baseball lifer. This is a guy that's managed all the way up in the minors, done all those things, and I think he was the perfect guy to go in with that team.
Yeah, I just think it worked. I would go Hinch and Shildt, but you want to argue that, and the guys that won, obviously, I just saw like a sea change. And I've rarely found Manager of the Year so fascinating as I do this year.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And also, I want to throw in there Carlos Mendoza, too. Listen, at the end, the Mets are one of the best teams in baseball. They took the Dodgers to 6 games. They kept running the table and beat Pat Murphy and those guys in that first round. So you got to look at Carlos Mendoza and the job that he did, too, because at the beginning of the year, it looked like the Mets season was over.
Disastrous.
Disastrous.
And that's not easy to deal with. Again, very good Manager of the Year races this year and shows you the relevancy and the importance of that job. As much as it's not the same thing it used to be in ye olden times. It's still a vitally important
I think
job.
it matters more than ever nowadays with how teams use their bullpens.
Right.
I really do. I think that's a big thing. The DH always said, hey, just go with those lineups. Now with the bullpens, BK, the managers matter more than ever.
That's right. Using the baseball ops. You've been in as hitting coach of the Yankees baseball ops, getting all that information out. Vitally important. All right, let's get to some other news here and get to Juan Soto news. Here's our friend John Heyman, our colleague. Yankees Soto meeting went very well. Late word. Reality is deep-pocketed all-in Mets and champion Dodgers on deck for a meetup. Have serious chances, and at least the Jays and Red Sox are in play. And another thing here from John Heyman, the Phillies haven't met with Juan Soto yet, but they plan to. Not many teams want to win more than them, or they do. John has to type fast out there. I would say this, Case. The Dodgers, this is their method of operation. They go to the top of the talent pyramid, they pay whatever it takes, and they get it. They've done it since Mookie was available, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Yamamoto, even Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline. Ohtani, obviously, but this is what the Dodger lineup would look like, the World Series lineup with Juan Soto. It would cost them. The issue, of course, is the guy at the top. You've got a DH there for another 9 years. If Ohtani's going to pitch and DH, he's DHing. Juan Soto, I guess the question is, how many years away is he from being a DH? Your thoughts on the Dodgers and the possibility that they do what they normally do, which is pay the freight for the star?
Don't they? Well, listen, Teoscar Hernandez is a free agent. You're losing 33 home runs right there. You got to replace that, obviously, with Soto. How long is he going to play the outfield for? With Ohtani having 9 years at DH, 9 years. That's how long. If they get Soto, and he's going to stay 9 years, and then we're going to figure it out. Then you go to DH and we'll figure it out. But I'll tell you what, you're right, BK. The Dodgers, a lot of times, if they want their guy, they go after it with big money, and they attack it, and they get it, just like they did last offseason. I also think the deferred money of Ohtani, it plays a big factor here with him only having to pay him $2 million a year over the course of the contract.
Roster-wise, though, I can't imagine that Andrew Friedman is not thinking that's going to be an issue soon. Again, Juan Soto this year was totally motivated. He was 25 years old, and yet we saw Case in the World Series his deficiencies as a base runner and a fielder. And that's when he's league average in the metrics for fielding.
Right.
He's been way below league average, and as he gets a little older, gains a little weight, maybe isn't as totally motivated as he was crushing it this year. He's going to be a different player. I can't imagine the Dodgers aren't looking at that saying that's going to be a roster quagmire with Ohtani and then Soto getting there. And then all our mix and match guys, whoever the Max Muncies of the future are and Chris Taylors of the future are, all our flexibility will be for naught.
Well, he's 26 years old. He's the best player in the baseball right now as far as like being 26, what his pedigree, what he brings. And at the end of the day, you can't steal first in this league, BK. I don't care what your metrics look like sometimes running. You got to be able to hit if you're in the big leagues.
His metric is a 419 on base. He's never been below a 400 on base.
That's the metric.
Yes,
you want an incredible bat. You want a guy that posts every day. You want a guy that makes other guys better than the lineup. Juan Soto's your guy.
They love what do the Dodgers love more than anything? The plate selection.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. They're going to do it.
I mean, he's
I came into this discussion saying they can't do it. No, Case, you're right. They're going to do it. $1
They're
billion.
serious players. $1 billion.
They'll do it. All right, so again, the Dodgers are in. They usually get their man. We'll take a short break here. Just getting started. We'll talk Hall of Fame. We'll talk National League Cy Young. And we'll talk Jose Siri with the Mets. Our thoughts on that. What are they thinking exactly next? Fine with Chris Sale winning all of this, and Paul Skeens is involved too.
Yeah.
But I'm saying Wheeler is right there with him, and that last week,
it means a lot.
It
means a lot, no doubt about it. I mean, when you look at the stats, I mean, Wheeler had an incredible season. I think that you got me on the one. You're right. Down the stretch, obviously Sale had the bad back and was banged up a little bit. But Wheeler was there for the Phillies when they needed him the most, especially into that postseason run. But I tell you what, when I look at this body of work and you look at Chris Sale at 177 innings pitched, the 225 strikeouts, this guy was dominant all year long, BK, with a 2.38 ERA. He was so good. And it was good to see Chris Sale back in form that he's been most of his career. He's been injured for a lot of the last few years. But so to see Chris Sale step up. And here's another thing, BK, with Strider going out at the beginning of the season and Sale, them needing Sale more than ever, he delivered. He delivered.
True, and Wheeler had 200 innings. So that's 22 plus more innings that he delivered, and he was there late. Sale was not there late. I'm saying it's close.
I love it. You're right. It's closer than you think. I think everyone thinks it's Sale, but when you look at Wheeler, you're like, wow. That's a pretty good body of work.
American League, I think it's a little easier. Like Tarek Skubal had a fantastic year. You can try to get cute with it. And I would if Emmanuel Clase had more innings. Like there's some guys out there that had like 90, innings in relief. He had 74. And yet he affected winning with win probability added very heavily. So what's your call here in the AL?
Well, I mean, I also have 47 saves. I'll tell you what, obviously Skubal's going to win it. There's no doubt about it. But look at Seth Lugo. 206 innings pitched.
An excellent year.
I mean, he had an excellent year from the jump, too.
Yep.
From the jump.
That's
Right.
right
Out the gate, you're like, wow, look at
Yep.
Seth Lugo. Look at Michael. Look at that rotation J.J. Picola put together. And Seth Lugo was one of those guys from day one. He was pretty much the mainstay, number one in that rotation, and he delivered. So what a great year for Seth Lugo. Well deserving. I think it would be a lot closer if Tarek Skubal didn't have the year he had.
Yeah, I would say I would love to give it to a relief pitcher. You know how I feel about the bullpen.
Right.
I'd love to do it. And in the days of Willie Hernandez, when a relief pitcher was throwing 140 innings of high leverage, yes. I'm not there with 74. I don't know what the magic number is, but I think it's more like 85 to 90 innings that you'd have to do to offset, you know, the 180 to 200 innings that a starter is going to give you. We just see the value of that volume.
Well, I think one thing, though, too, with that bullpen, they were so good with Cade Smith down the stretch and the guys that bridge the gap to Class A. He just had to throw the ninth. So you can't say, hey, listen, give us the eighth and ninth. They didn't have to with that bullpen. They were so good. So you can't penalize him, too, for having those 74 innings. They just needed him in the ninth.
Yeah, the manager there was not close. This is probably going to be blowout city, too. I know these guys, Case. I know these writers. I know it's over. But Cy Young Award, the official announcement Wednesday right here on MLB Network, and then MVP on Thursday. Tomorrow on MLB Tonight, I'm going to have to make the case for the shortstops, Sean.
Yes.
I'm going to have to, someone's got to talk Witt and Lindor.
Yes.
Even if you think it's Judge and Ohtani, you got to make a case for shortstops in here. Again, all shows 6 o'clock Eastern, MLB Tonight. Right after that, when we come back, who is most interested in one of the top relievers in the starting pitcher market? That's Corbin Burns. News on that next.
Corbin Burns, you are a Cy Young candidate.
He's got a very simple delivery, different locations, different speeds, and yes, there's different breaks.
On the outside corner, a dart of a cutter to end 7 sensational innings.
Do it, Burns. Lots of different weapons. You look at his demeanor, he just has figured the whole thing out.
Swinging on this, strikeout number 1,000 in the great career of Corbin Burns.
Corbin Burns tonight, dominant.
This guy is a number one. He's a true ace.
There is a top shelf, an elite starting pitcher market out there. Corbin Burns is one of really just 3 or 4. John Morosi saying that the Orioles and Dodgers are the leading candidates to sign Corbin Burns as a free agent. Brian Kenny, Sean Casey back here on MLB Tonight. Your thoughts on that possibility? The Dodgers are in on everybody.
They're going to get
We know that. They're just right. They're just going to get him. But he was there with the Orioles last year. It meant an awful lot to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, the Orioles, I think, need to get Corbin Burns back. He really solidifies that rotation at the top. You got to have a workhorse, especially if you're in the AL East facing those teams out there. And you look at, he had a great year, 2.92 ERA. I think the biggest thing was his innings pitched. BK, 194 innings pitched. And when I look at Corbin Burns and you look at his body of work, I just think that he's getting better. I really do. I know his punch outs per 9 are down, but having game plan for this guy last year when I was with the Yankees, I think he's more of that pitcher that's trying not to punch everybody out. He's trying to make good pitches in the zone, especially with that cutter, slider, little curveball that he has right there.
Can I point these out?
Please,
I called
please
for this. I wanted to show it. So you tell me if there's an explanation, or is this the aging process, which is not good news? The strikeout percentage going from 35 to 30 to 25 to 23%, and also the whiff percentages every pitch, not just your strikeouts, but every pitch going from 36 to 28. That would be alarming. His velo has not gone down.
Yeah.
But those numbers are eye-opening.
I'm not so concerned. He's averaging over 6 innings, 6.1 innings a start. The league average is 5.1. He's averaging over an inning a start. Who would you want to have? Especially think about this for the Dodgers. Are you trusting that rotation? So many of those guys are banged up. Glasnow, Gonsolin's coming back, Yamamoto. Hey, if you're thinking about bringing in a guy, why would you not want to bring a guy like Corbin Burns that you know is going to give you innings, that's thrown over 190 innings the last 3 years? So for me, if I look at Burns, I go, yeah, I don't mind. So he's punching out a few guys less per 9. Guy's a great pitcher.
He's made every start the last 3 years. Dodgers, I don't know if they've had a 200-inning guy since Don Drysdale.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Right, no, they specialize in the 140-inning guy who's shutting it down. Right, you can't count the Dodgers out at any point. I wonder, though, again, you know what the calling card is in this league, and that's missing bats.
Yeah.
And that has to get people's attention. Unless there is was there a concerted effort with the Orioles, who are one of the smarter teams out there, to say, you don't have to be pitching this way. Like, if I hear that, maybe, otherwise I'd be concerned.
Listen, I totally agree that when you look at Corbin Burns, I mean, I think there's a lot of weak contact in there. I mean, do you have to punch everybody out? I mean, like I said, This guy...
Usually not a good sign. I mean, no, but it's usually not a good sign.
Yeah, but I tell you what, when I look at the other numbers of him going 6 in the third innings, almost throwing 200 innings again, I think that whiff rate could go back up.
このように、今回の MLB、Tonight では、各チームの進化やリーダーシップの力について、改めて注目が集まりましたね。スティーブン・ボート監督のアメリカンリーグでの達成功や、パット・マーフィー監督がナショナルリーグで見せたリーダーシップの素晴らしさなど、野球の魅力を存分に感じられる話題が満載でした。ボート監督が新人ながらも冷静かつ大胆な戦略でチームを牽引し、マフィー監督が選手との信頼関係を築きながら勝利に導いたエピソードは、多くのファンにとって感動的だったのではないでしょうか。さらに、ドジャースのホットな補強の可能性や、サイ・ヤング賞の候補者についての議論も、野球ファンの心を大いに騒ぎ立てましたね。ファンとしては、ホアン・ソトやコビン・バーンズの息の戦望がどうなるのか、そして今後のドジャースの戦略がどのように展開されるのか、目がほせないところです。一方、オリオールズがバーンズの獲得を目指しているという噂も、リーグ全体の実力度を大きく変える可能性があるため、非常に興味深いポイントです。もちろん、サイ・ヤング賞の候補者であるザック・ウィーラーとクリス・セルも野球界に新たなストーリーを提供してくれました。特にセル選手の復活劇は、困難を乗り越えることの大切さを教えてくれる素晴らしい力ですね。スポーツの世界では、挑戦と努力が結果につながる瞬間が何よりも感動的です。最後に、メジャーリーグ米スボルの未来をそう作るのは、監督のリーダーシップや選手のスキルだけではなく、ファンの皆さんの応援の力でもあります。あなたの熱い声援やリアクションが、選手たちやチーム全体のモチベーションを押し上げる原動力になるのです。今シーズンもまだまだ見逃せない展開が続きそうですね。これからも最新の MLB ニュースや試合の胸側をお届けしていきますので、ぜひこのチャンネルをいいねしてフォローしてください。あなたの感想や好きな瞬間についてのコメントもお待ちしています。みんなで一緒にMLB の興奮を楽しみましょう。これらのパフォーマンスは、彼らがただのスター選手ではなく、真のチームリーダーであることを証明しました。さらに、この勝利は、ドジャースの組織全体の努力と戦略の快挙でもあります。試合中のベンチの雰囲気、綿密に計算されたピッチングの采配、守備での絶妙な判断など、すべてがこの結果につながっています。特にジャック・フラファティやブレイク・ライネンといった投手陣の活躍はチームにとって前かせないものでした。また、キケ・ヘルナンデスやギャビン、ラックスといった選手たちが重要な場面で結果を残し、チーム全体が一丸となって勝利をつかみ取った子は、ファンとして誇りに思える瞬間でした。ドジャースの利率は簡単なものではありませんでした。ディビジョンシリーズでの急騰、チャンピオンシップシリーズでの緊張感、そしてワールドシリーズでのヤンキ。ストの歴史的な戦い、すべての試合が緊張感に満ち、感情が高ぶる瞬間の連続でした。特にワールドシリーズ、テーム戦の逆転劇は、MLB の歴史に残る名勝負として語り継がれることでしょう。球界力においても、選手たちは冷静さを使わず、最後の瞬間まで権力でプレする子は多くのファンの心を払わせました。この勝利の例には、選手たちだけでなくファンの皆さんの支えがありました。ホームスタジアムで向き渡る応援、遠く離れた場所からの声援、そして常に選手たちを信じ続けてくださった皆さんの情熱がチームにとって大きな例となりました。選手たちがインタビューで育っていたように、この勝利は 選手だけのものではなく、ファン全員のものです。皆さんの応援がなければ、このような素晴らしい結果は実現しなかったでしょう。未然にじ無念し、ズンが間もなく始まります。新たな挑戦が待ち受ける中で、ドジャスはこの勝利を量にさらなる高みを目指すことでしょう。選手たちがこの経験を生かし、次のシーズンでどのようなドラマを見せてくれるのか、今から楽しみでなりません。また、第5翔平やモ・キベツツ、フレディ・フリマンといったスター選手だけでなく、若手選手たちの成長や新たな戦力の台頭にも注目が集まります。最後にファンの皆さんにお願いです。この動画を楽しんでいただけたなら、ぜひねとチャンネル登録をお願いします。そしてコメント欄でお気に入りの瞬間や選手への応援メッセージを教えてください。皆さんの声が選手たちにとって何よりの絡みになります。最新のドジャス情報や試合のハイライトをお届けしますので、これからも一緒に応援し続けましょう。ロサンゼルス・ドジャスの新たな歴史を共に作り上げていきましょう。